I know this may seem rather late to the party, but I didn't watch it when it first appeared on our screens. And also, I had the whole Buffy and Angel year where there was so much stuff that I wanted to cover in various months that I couldn't do, and I had to really shift everything around. It messed around the schedule so much. But here we are finally with The Haunting of Hill House series on Netflix. And I could have waited until a new season, but it's still in my head now. So I've got the ideas together, so here we go. And of course, this series was created by Mike Flanagan, based on the book by Shirley Jackson, starring a rather impressive cast. And I'm not going to name everyone, but Carla Gugino does a good job. I hope I said that name right. Timothy Hutton, Henry Thomas, of course, and of course Katie Siegel's in it. If you don't understand that connection, I'll let you go and look up the connection yourself. But this has such a great cast, like I say. Annabeth Gish as well. There's so many good people that I don't want to just single out too many, because everyone did a really good job. And the thing that I really loved about this, and what I really want to talk about in this episode, if you will, of mine, is how the ghosts are not the important thing at all. The ghosts of the house are secondary. Yes, I've looked at it. I watched it a second time with Amy because she hadn't seen it, and I was like, okay, it'll refresh my mind for when I'm ready to do a video, and that was a few months ago now. But I recently watched a video. If I can find that video again, I'll link it down below, of someone who's basically found all the hidden ghosts. Maybe not all of them, but a good chunk of them. And watching it a second time and going, there's one, there's one, there's one. But sat with someone who hasn't seen it before, so they're engaged in the story a lot more, not the hidden ghosts in all the scenes. And there was like, did you see that there? And what there? What? I didn't see anything. And that to me was a joy. I love that. The fact that it does reward a second viewing. You're like, oh, I know this. I know what's going on in this scene. Wait, there's a person standing there that I've never noticed before. And of course, I could go on for ages about two of the standout episodes that were right next to each other. The Bent Neck Lady, which gave us that history of Nell's, where she was seeing the Bent Neck Lady, and then we realise it's actually her timeline sort of going back on itself. I've said before many times on this channel, I love non-linear storytelling. I love it when time is all wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey stuff. And Mike Flanagan does this really well. In Oculus, he's done it, and various other projects of his. He does understand how to give you a bit of information from this time and a bit of information from this time and still make it all make perfect sense. Even if they're not this, then this, it can be done in any order and you can still get a good understanding. And in fact, not telling it you in order keeps a good level of suspense, keeps the storytelling fresh and engaging. I respect him immensely, and like I say, that episode was great. But following on from that was Two Storms, which was one of those long shot pieces, very artsy, and you can, if you're versed in film techniques, you can tell where the cuts are, but a lot of those cuts are logistical. When we go from the funeral home to the old Hill House itself, you can't, unless those sets were definitely connected together in a way that would make it work, you can't have the scene continue without some kind of cut. And obviously they did make some kind of transition piece. You could tell that. It might have been green screened or something as well, who knows. I haven't looked into the details. If you do know, please put it in the comments below and enlighten us all. But that's where an organic cut is, when you can then explore the house fully. And in that, this idea of the hidden ghost is even more impressive, because you haven't got a static shot that you can then cut to a different shot to give a chance for a performer to get out of frame. You've actually got to do it live. A camera will pan around and you've got to chase that camera so that you're not in when it returns or whatever, or that you're in when it hits your spot. The scene with the statue turning its head is one example. That's got to be done so, like, okay, the camera's coming now, and you've got to be there. And like I say, I respect both of those episodes for different reasons, but the whole story is a family drama. It's a family that years ago was slowly falling apart, apparently due to an influence of something otherworldly in the house. The sort of housekeepers didn't like it. They didn't like to stay after dark. And this was kind of played off sillily in the 90s film with Liam Neeson, where it was all scripted. This was a lot more real and organic. And if people really want me to talk about that, by the way, I'm happy to go to it, and I will happily watch the older Haunting film as well. Suggestions are always welcome, just dropping that out there. But like I say, the Dudleys' fear of the house was really played up well. This idea that this house has a malevolence to it from the start. And I love that. The fact that a book that wasn't anything like this, it was more basically a autobiographical tale, an autobiographical tale of Shirley Jackson's agoraphobia, really. Turning that into something like this is very different. Because, of course, the Cranes aren't these people that they're portrayed in this like house flippers at all. But it does that so well, like I say. It has this family drama, this family falling apart. And even when they've left the house, the scars stay with them. They are broken in perpetuity, almost. The ghosts of the house still try and claw them back, still call to them, especially the weaker-minded twins, unfortunately. Nell and Luke are both very broken in different ways, but they are very broken. I mean, everyone is. But those two, I think somehow, because it's, two souls split, if you will, into two bodies, or one soul split into two bodies, which is how some people view twins, and I think that's part of what I interpret here. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but interpretation is interpretation. It's all personal. But the idea that this is one soul split into two bodies meant they had a lot harder time to fight what was being done to them. So Luke obviously turned to drugs, and Nell just ends up being called back to the house like a siren song, and ends up accidentally dying, although we're led to believe until a certain point that it was suicide. But how it handles all these delicate matters is so well done as well. It could go the typical Hollywood route of like, hey, look, you went into rehab and you're suddenly fixed. It's not the first time he's gone to rehab. He's still tempted. I don't know if Mike Flanagan has any history, with addiction or anything like that, but I can believe that he may, because he portrays it so believably. This is a thing that really I do respect of him, and in Dr. Sleep as well, how he portrays the AA meetings in that. I'm not going to go into detail on that. That's, again, maybe for a future video if it's wanted. But it's so well done. It's so well put together, and all the timelines come together. And like I said before, the idea that he gives you this little bit of information from the past and this little bit of information from the future, but the future one came 3 episodes ago. And it keeps that interest, it keeps the intrigue, it keeps the suspense, and boom, you suddenly have that realization when 2 and 2 come together, make 4, and the world is changed. It's so much better because you didn't get it in traditional order. You got to slowly have that dawning realization, and then possibly the dread and fear. But one of the last things that I think I want to cover is how the Red Room was portrayed. This weird little room that they couldn't get into, yet they all got into. And that was how the house fed on them, if you will. It gave them what it thought they wanted, so that they stayed in there and learned everything about them. If there is a malevolent presence to this building, it learned about them. And like I say, it made them complacent. It dulled them. It was a reading room for one, a dance practice room for another, a treehouse. And on second viewing, again, this is why it's such a good thing to go back to. Now that you know all the twists. Every time, and I was doing it very carefully so Amy didn't know, in case anyone was worried, oh, did I spoil it by going, aha? No, I'm very respectful of that. But the treehouse, the hatch was red. It was painted red because it's the red door that they couldn't get into. All these different clues, and I took note of the window placement because that was something that was really laid on thick to a degree, I suppose, in the reveal. But I made sure that I charted it like, yes, it's definitely right centre. And maybe they just had the one room that they redressed and did all the scenes they needed to in that room and then redressed it as another version, etc. But then to have it as really the centre of the tragedy that fully broke the Crane family apart, where the poor matriarch of the family was going kind of a bit cuckoo, to put it as nicely as I can, and ends up, having this very, very bad tea party and killing the Dudley's child. But they don't hold it against her. I love that too. They're a grieving pair of parents. They know that their child's been killed by this person they were working for. And they don't hold it against her because they know it's the house. And you even have that wonderful, beautiful moment, you know, sort of when they're older and it's like, take me to the house, because if I die there, my spirit will stay there and I can spend time with our daughter. And that was so beautiful to me. The idea that, like, well, she's there, she's trapped there forever now. So I want to go. I want to spend that time with her. That really touched me. You know, there's a lot of beauty in this, whilst it's based around a horror premise. You know, like a haunted house, classic horror. There's a lot of heart, there's a lot of beauty in it. And I keep saying, it's one of the things I love about Mike Flanagan. He can give you heartbreak and horror and sadness, but positivity and hope and beauty, all in the same breath. And if you, for some strange reason, missed it even longer than I did, and you're weirdly watching a video breaking it down, I definitely say go back to it, because this is storytelling, you know, done masterfully. Yes, it's not perfect. There are problems here and there. But the fact that it is a ghost story where the ghosts are really the problems within a family. It's a family drama with ghosts. And yet it still manages to creep you the heck out on a regular basis. I can't wait for a second season. I don't know how they're going to, or where they're going to go from here. But I'm eager for it. And like I say, if people want me to do Dr. Sleep or Oculus, anything by Mike Flanagan, or any other Netflix series, you know, please feel free to ask. I can only say no if I don't think I can really do anything with it. But that's all I really want to say about Haunting of Hill House. It's a great series, and I loved it. So until next time, as always, thank you for watching, and take care. And watch out for the ghosts. That one right behind you right now. Don't turn around. Don't turn around.